Long Island Backstory with Chief Correspondent Gary Jacobs.
Why are you supporting Larry Sharpe?
I'm supporting him because he's got ideas and none of the other politicians do. He's new, he's original, and he wants to make our state better.
I've seen not only the state but the country really take a turn with the political parties, and it seems like the proper answer would be to not do Democrat and not Republican. Maybe it's struggling right now, but the future is definitely like away from political parties, more libertarian, and his point of views are like dead on with mine.
Larry isn't just a great candidate, he's a great human being. He's a great man. And the thing I like about him is I believe in him because he believes in us, and that's his policies, his ideas are all geared around that, all centered around that.
I'm supporting Larry because he's the only candidate I've heard so far that makes sense.
It's a nice thing to see a person who comes from the standpoint of, being a New Yorker who wants what's best for the state.
He's got my vote.
There is no justice in the court system because everybody has their own agendas. Not only is there no justice, they feed into this because this is how we feed the beast out here. All the lawyers need to get paid, the jails need to be filled up, the courthouse needs to be busy all the time. These judges who now are making about $195,000 a year with full pensions, they all need to have their jobs. So they just keep feeding the system. The reason I'm speaking here today is because things must change. And many of you here, listen, more than 50% of people get divorced. This touches everybody, because even if you're one of the lucky ones who doesn't get divorced, maybe your parents got divorced, your brothers and sisters get divorced, you certainly have a friend who's gotten divorced. Divorce touches every single one of us here at some point in our lives. If you could separate yourself from that and say, emotionally, I don't even care about that, I'm lucky, I'm happily married, doesn't bother me. You're wrong, you pay taxes. And I know that's one of the things that Larry talks about is the problem with tax, and I'm not an expert on it, but what I do know is that when we put somebody in jail, it costs us over $100,000 a year. And believe it or not, this may come as a shock to a lot of people, every single day of the week on Long Island, we put people in jail due to divorce-related issues. Here's a quote that Larry actually said on my show, and it really hit me when just listening to the quote and writing it down. He said, family law is the most important court we have, because if we have better family law, we'll have less criminals, we'll have less bad relationships, we'll have less bad people suing each other, we'll fix the family, and all these things will get better. He went to the root of the problem. I was asking him about all these horrible things that they do in court and about all the people we're locking up, that we lock up more people than any other civilized nation in the world. And Larry just got down to the bottom. He said, let's fix the family courts. Could you believe that in the United States of America, somebody could go to jail for 18 months without a jury of their peers, with one person? In many cases, you can go without a judge because what they do is they have a hearing officer who's not allowed to put you in jail. So they do the hearing, they recommend to the judge rubber stamps it, and now you're in jail for 6 months. How can this happen in America? We destroy men by giving them the strapping child support that they can't live up with. You know, another thing that Larry was talking about was the need for the father in his life, and we were talking about the quote deadbeat dads that everybody talks about. And Larry said he lost his father at a young age. And he said, Gary, let me tell you, I would love to have my father in my life. I would do anything to have him. I don't care if he was a deadbeat dad. I would want him in my life. That's the most important thing, having your father in your life. There's many people who can't afford fancy cars and fancy houses. They love their children, and they have a good life. That is the most important thing, doing whatever you can to keep the fathers in the children's lives. So that's why I support Larry. Just on another note, I took some notes while I was here. Larry cares about everybody. And I'm not just saying this, I know this, because when I went to buy my shirt, when I walked in here today, most people only go up to extra large. Larry went up to 4X. He cares about everybody. And I asked Larry in private, too. I have to be honest. I said to him, Larry, listen, what's your odds of winning here? You got a tough race with Cuomo. And he said, first of all, if half the people who didn't vote last gubernatorial election. If just half of them come out and vote for me, I win. Get out and vote. There is no such thing as a wasted vote. Even if in your mind you say, I don't know if he can win, you're sending a message that everything that you guys care about matters, and the next time he's going to win. So everybody needs to go out and vote. You need to tell all of your friends, tell your family, no matter what your issue is, tell them why, and tell them to get out and vote and share the message. And Larry, God bless you, and thank you for everything that you're doing for us, the people.
I'm a child victim of the family court process and how terrible it is. And what you really said that got me was the terrible judges. So that's really where I connect with that story. And I've been in the judges' room myself as a child, having to explain my experiences with both of my parents, and so they're terrible.
Larry doesn't just have a good chance, he's the best chance we have for making New York a place that we can be happy again.
It's really not fair on Long Island how we're being taxed to death, that we can't live here. I mean, I don't think that we could take any higher taxes and be able to stay in this state.
But, you know, that's the thing about New York, people. This is a place you want to live. It's not a place you want to run from. And if we continue to, you know, enhance the king and push him along, this is all we're going to end up with. We need change. We need to embrace change. We need to understand that just because we don't think like everyone else, that we aren't a part of everyone else. That's my view of libertarianism. That I could care less if a gentleman smokes a marijuana cigarette and owns a gun. He's not going to shoot no one. It's the drunk we have to worry about. It's the addict we have to worry about, but it's the addict and drunks we need to embrace. Sorry, but I get excited when I talk about this. And I really truly get excited when I talk about Larry.
So I identify as a conservative, actually, and so do a lot of my friends, and Democrats too, but I think the most important thing is that he is not a polished, clean politician. He really is a human, like he says, and one of the most important things I think Larry says is people call him Larry. They don't call him Mr. Sharpe, they don't call him Sharpe, they call him Larry because he's very down to earth, and I think that's exactly what we need to change New York for the better, and either of the other candidates clearly are not going to do that. And I think if people would just vote based on their morals and their beliefs and someone that could actually do a good job rather than feel like they're betraying their own party, we could really get somewhere in the state.
For a year, I've been out here making this happen because I knew it would take this long to get the growth that we needed. I knew it would take this long to get the momentum that we have right now. And when I first started, I wasn't talking about family law. I began talking about family law because when I went out and met people, people told me they had problems. People told me these things. And they realized something. They realized that, yeah, I am human. It's true, you're right, I am human. And I care about people, and I care about my state. I'm running for a selfish reason, and that is because I don't want to move. I love my state. I love New York State. I love everything about it. And most of you do too. You just hate the government. But you love the state, so we have to fix it. So how do I fix that state? Do I change law? Do I shake my iron fist? No. It's one thing. It's going to sound crazy again, but it's happy people. That's really what this is about. It's about happy people. I'm the only guy who talks about what our founding fathers talked about, which is life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Yes. And while that seems so crazy, if you look at all of my ideas, if you look at everything I talk about, every single plan I've come up with, it all focuses on one thing: happy New Yorkers. Happy New Yorkers is the answer. If you're a happy New Yorker, guess what? You stay. You aren't part of the over 100,000 New Yorkers who leave every single year. If you're a happy New Yorker, you raise your family here. If you're a happy New Yorker, you grow a business here. If you're a happy New Yorker, you retire here. If you're a happy New Yorker, you spend your pension here. You do all those things here if you're a happy New Yorker. But why does no one else talk about that? Or two reasons. Number one, they're career politicians. I'm not. I'm a business guy. What does that mean? I know that in any business, there are many facets to any business, depending on how big or how small your business is. Many aspects, things you deal with. But in the end, you focus on one thing: happy customers. If you have happy customers, they keep coming back. If you're a happy customer to anyone, you go back. It's just human nature, right? You go back. If you're a happy customer, you pay the price. You're happy to pay their fees because you're a happy customer. If you're a happy customer, you tell other people and you have them come because you're a happy customer. Everything a business does has to focus on happy customer. If it doesn't, it will eventually fail. Every state has to do the same thing. I've got to focus on you, my happy customers, which means my happy citizenry, which means people who want to stay. Can you imagine if you were a CEO and you had lost 100,000 customers every year for 8 years straight? That's our current CEO, or His Majesty King Andrew Cuomo II. Yes, that's him right now. Any CEO who had lost that many customers would have been fired a long time ago. We got to fire him. We have to. So I talk about happiness and being human, I do. So why in the world wouldn't he decide to do this? Why wouldn't he see this and then change? Why wouldn't he see this and then change and go, oh, you know what? I care about happy New Yorkers. Let me make policies that would make New Yorkers happy. Why doesn't he do this? I'm going to say something very important. Not because he's corrupt, because he's dumb or Democrat. Be very clear. He's a bad man. I want to be very clear on this. He's a bad man. How do I know that? For 16 years, Democrats have run this state. 16 years. 8 years he ran it. If they were going to fix this state, they would have. But for 16 years, Republicans have watched Democrats run this state. If they were going to fix it, they'd have a plan. They have no plan, no idea, no movement. Why? Because they're apathetic. The Republicans are apathetic, and the Democrats are run by a bad man. How do I know he's a bad man? All right. Let me go to what we talked about earlier, the idea of family law. Why does no one talk about family law? Because the Democrats? No, believe it or not, Spitzer talked about fixing family law in 2006. Then he started importing women, and that went away. But he talked about it. So it isn't a Democrat-Republican issue. It's someone who doesn't care. I cared about this because I went out there, and I saw father's rights, and I looked, and I went to the father's rights events, and you know what I saw? I saw a bunch of broken men. I get emotional about this because I went home that night, and I couldn't sleep. The first time I did, I couldn't sleep. How can I fix this state with broken men? Because every broken man I saw, I realized there's a broken son or daughter or both with that broken man. That I know. They're broken, and nobody cares. They're broken, and nobody cares. No one will stand up for them. No one will talk about them. What I will, which is why when we talked, you said, you must have been through a horrible divorce. I said, no, but I see a sea of broken men. Why wouldn't I care? That's leadership. But His Majesty sees them too. And what does he do? Nothing. Nothing.
Push them to jail.
Yes, he sees them go to jail. Nothing. And we wonder why we have a broken state. But I'll go to another detailed piece that I now am behind too. Those you may know, corrections officers. Corrections officers are in a really bad spot right now. Corrections officers are being punished by the state. They haven't had a contract in about 3 years. And here's what you might need to know about corrections officers you may or may not care about. The average lifespan of a corrections officer in New York State is 58 years. Every corrections officer I've ever met knows someone who's committed suicide. Knows someone who is an alcoholic. Knows a correction officer who's been put in jail. His Majesty knows this. What has he done? Nothing. He is the reason. He wouldn't give him a contract. Nothing. We're talking suicide. I go to a father's rights event. Every single person in that room knows someone who's committed suicide. Suicide! He's done nothing. I go upstate and I talk to farmers, particularly dairy farmers. You know what a big problem is happening with farmers right now? Suicide. They have a 7-generation farm that they're going to lose. 7 generations. These people, this is their life. It's what they want to be. It's what makes them happy. And what's the answer? Suicide. Safe Act. Talk about a Safe Act all the time. You know what bothers me most about the Safe Act? Is that it makes our medical community, those of you who don't know, it makes our medical community part of a secret state police that reports on people who have any type of trouble, feeling suicidal, trouble, mental illness, PTSD, which means our veteran community. Veterans, if you know this, are twice as likely to commit suicide than non-veterans. Twice as likely.
22 a day.
That's correct, and they're 10% of our population. That's correct. Over 100 Americans kill themselves every day. 22 are veterans. They're 10% of our population. They're about twice as likely to commit suicide. And the SAFE Act makes sure they don't get help. The laws he passes is literally killing our veterans. And he doesn't care. I don't talk about him being corrupt or being a Democrat or whatever. He's a bad man. His policies are directly responsible with my brothers and sisters putting a shotgun in their mouth and pulling the trigger. He doesn't care. I will ask you as a New Yorker, I will ask you as a Democrat, any Democrats in the room, why in the world would you reward that behavior?
Not anymore.
Why in the world would you reward that behavior? A man who just doesn't care at all. He won't even answer questions for the press. The press. He won't take questions for the press. Why? Because you're all peasants anyway. He doesn't care. Because you're all his serfs. He doesn't care. I'll say it again. He doesn't care about you or me or anybody else. New Yorkers are fleeing our state 100,000 every year, and a rise in suicide throughout this entire country, over 30%. In New York State too. And his response has been nothing. We are deciding that putting a gun in our mouth is a better answer than living in this state, and he is doing nothing about it at all, not even saying anything. This is how bad we are right now. This is how bad we are. But I'll go one step further. Did anybody happen to see there is actually a special on HBO? It's a special. It's called RX. I forgot something else for the name of the special, but it has His Majesty's girlfriend in it. Hear about that? Yes, His Majesty's girlfriend. Sadly, yeah. His Majesty's girlfriend, sadly, had cancer. Luckily, she's a survivor. Good for her. I'm happy she survived. Good for her. Good for her. He's in the special. Released this month. What does he talk about? He talks about his legislative record. What a horrible human being that he would use his girlfriend's cancer, the disease that took my mother and took my father, that he would use her disease that she, by the way, had to have a mastectomy for, so took part of her body. He would use that at this time to gain votes. This is the man who runs this state right now. This is the man that we're up against right now. I want you to realize this is the monster that we have right now who runs our state. And you wonder why we flee. And you wonder why we flee. Someone who doesn't care at all will do nothing. But what do I say? I say we can fix this. I give us an answer for every single one of those things, not based upon ideology, but based upon how can we make happy New Yorkers? How can we make sure that New Yorkers are actually happy? Then you might say, well, Larry, he's a monster. Can you beat the monster?
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, I would ask you a question. Who better than a Marine? That's what I would say. Who better? But to be forward, I can't beat this monster alone. I need you to help me. And I say who he actually is. I say this to you for a very important reason. We have about 3 weeks left, 3.5 weeks left. I need you to be motivated. I need you to understand how hard this is. I need you to understand we are fighting a monster This is no time for apathy. Your friends who say, whatever, whatever, tell them, literally, people are choosing shotgun in their mouth and pull the trigger over staying in this state, and I can't stand it. I'm going to vomit. I can't stand it. You shouldn't either. You should not stand for this, and you should say, we're going to stand up and get rid of him. And we can do that if we vote. We can do that if we vote. What are we going to do if we vote? If we vote, one of two things happens. Here's what I promise you. One of two things happens. One, I win. Awesome. The monster goes away and he'll go do whatever he does. Hopefully skulk back into a cave somewhere, maybe do the HBO special, whatever, I don't care. Just leave Albany and let me try to fix things. That's what happens, number one. But number two, it sends a message to the entire nation that we won't tolerate monsters like this anymore. That we won't tolerate these monsters anymore. It lets our state know that as another party, you may not be apathetic. You can't just sit back and let this happen. You've got to be a real opposition party. You got to do something about it. Stand for something. Make a change. But if I don't win, okay, what if I come in second? Let me ask you a more important question. What happens if the Republican comes in second? Nothing. That's correct. Nothing. Nothing happens. As usual for the past 16 years, nothing happens. But if I come in second, a microphone gets shoved in my face every single day. Larry Sharpe, how'd you do it? And I can stay on point. I can stay on target. I can speak about the monster. I can say how we have to fix family court, how we have to support our veterans, how we have to fix our farmers and make them better, how we have to support the Second Amendment, how we have to support small business, how we have to support cannabis, how we have to support hemp, how we have to make this state a state of happy New Yorkers so that not only do you stay, but that all our friends and loved ones who have left become jealous and come back. I want them to come back. I want to make sure we have an education system that isn't just let's spend money, but it's a system that says, wow, I'm ready to rock and roll. And not only am I ready to rock and roll, I'm ready to rock and roll here in this state. What does that mean? We have to have opportunity here, supporting small business and new industries so that when you get out of college, there's a job for you. There's an opportunity for you. There's a business you can start. We've got to support small business and new industry so you can make that new business. We've got to simplify the tax code so that big business doesn't win and that small business can actually win. And we can do all of that. But we can only do all these great things you've heard about. We can only do all these awesome things if you, in your heart, understand one important thing. We are fighting a monster. Everything I say is nice and positive and good and feels good. I got it. And it should be, because it is based on being good. But we are fighting a monster, a man who doesn't care that we are literally killing ourselves, and a man who would use his own girlfriend's possibly terminal illness for his own political gain. If you get that, you will motivate yourself. You will motivate your friends. You will motivate your family. And when they go, but he's not that bad. Yeah, he is. But it doesn't matter. Yeah, it does. But there's no hope. Yes, there is. If you say that, we can actually get people out to vote on November 6th and win this election and change New York. We can make New York no longer a place where people say, I can't wait till I leave. I can't wait till I retire. I can't wait to where I can go off and go to some other state and instead say, wow, am I glad I live here. Wow, why don't you move here? Why aren't you coming here? We can make that change. Most of you know my policies. I get it. Most of you like my policies. You wouldn't be here. I got it. But liking my policies and showing up, while amazing and thank you, is not enough. You have to understand how important this is. And everyone says, this election is the most important election ever. I know you hear it every time. But they'll use this to stop us. You've heard it. This is the most important election ever, so you cannot vote for Larry Sharpe, right? So important, so you can't vote for Larry Sharpe. I will go the opposite. It's so important, you must. You must. You absolutely must. Now, for those of you who say, Well, all right, that sounds great. But again, you can't win. No worries.
Hell, you can.
Yes, I can.
Yes, you can.
Now, they didn't see Obama coming in 2008, and he won. They thought Hillary was going to beat him. Remember that? Because she was establishment, and he wasn't, and they thought, but he was using email, and he got around it. Remember back in 2008? Yeah. Then Trump came. Well, of course, Trump can't beat Hillary. Nobody can beat Hillary, even though Obama just did. Nobody can beat Hillary. That can't happen. Of course not. Trump was using Twitter. Huh. And look at Trump's president now. Obama, Trump.
Pataki.
Yeah, Pataki too, sure. But Obama and Trump, they didn't see him coming. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in my district. Yes. No one saw her coming either. And she was knocking on doors, and she won too. Well, they don't see me coming either. And I'm using podcasts and Facebook, and no one else is. And they don't see me coming. And guess what? The result will be the same. This is winnable, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Larry, we had an amazing turnout here today. It's not easy to get people to come out on a Saturday late morning, and you filled the room. And what I found interesting here, it wasn't just a bunch of people who just came out because they're voting party lines. All your supporters, these people were passionate.
Yes.
And when you were speaking, people had tears in their eyes.
Yes,
so
I had tears in my eyes. So it's great. Yes, no, I agree. This is, the advantage that we have is all the events I do, particularly the ones that are just local events, I get people who are Democrats, Republicans, Independents, and those who've never voted. Just had a guy just now leave and say, you're going to be the first guy I've ever voted for. This happens all the time. It's the only way we can win. And you require a candidate who understands that it's not about party lines, it's about making happy New Yorkers. And you can be as liberal or as conservative or as whatever you want to be. Don't push yourself on others. Go out and do what makes you happy. Have a good family. Have a good life. Be a happy New Yorker and bring your family back. I want New York to grow. It can grow. It's a great state. People hate the government at the state. I want to make sure that if you look at everything I talk about, it's always about making sure that more people have opportunity, not less. More people have freedom, not less. More people get a better education, not less. Everything I talk about is more New Yorkers opening up the pie to give more people the opportunities. The people who are wealthy are going to get theirs anyway. They're wealthy. They're going to get theirs. And that's fine. I'm not against them. They should get theirs. Awesome. But so should everyone else. Let's all win. That's what I'm saying.
And everybody who's watching the show today, listen, it doesn't cost anything. I say it all the time. Share the damn show. Share the videos. I can't tell you how many people, when I ran the show, the first show we did together in the studio, came to me and said, I never heard of this guy, but he's got my vote.
Yes.
And the media, the mainstream media, is doing their best to not even mention you.
Of course.
So this is a message against the mainstream media, which is a huge problem. So for all those people who also support Donald Trump and him saying fake news, the media, all the problems, whether you like him or not, he's right. The media is blocking you out.
The media is making them right.
So
you think that after 2016 they would learn the lesson. They didn't. They have not learned the lesson at all. And when November 6th comes, they're going to look even worse.
You're actually voting for a real person, a guy who has been a veteran. He's a family man, well-spoken. He could speak any of them under the table. And he has a point of view that you would agree with as far as your home, your children, the defense of them, and a person who believes that taxation is theft.
Long Island Backstory is made possible in part by Americans for Legal Reform, the oldest, most successful legal group in the world. P.O. Box 2679, Huntington Station, New York 11746. Telephone 631-421-6390. Website Americans4legalreform.com.